Hello and welcome to this video on converting degrees and radians. It'll demonstrate how to convert from radians to degrees and degrees to radians. It assumes you have a sense of what a radian is, and you should have a sense of what degrees are from your younger days in geometry. They're just units of measurement for dealing with angles. And in trigonometry, it is essential that you are fluent in being able to convert one to the other. Okay? So, a couple of things off the bat that you should have a sense of, and that is that 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi radians. They are, in fact, the same thing. And then from that, you should also have a sense that 180 degrees is the same as pi radians. And that measurement looks more like this. Okay? Now, don't get thrown off by the whole one rotation, half rotation thing. We're not measuring things in rotations right now. We're going to be talking about measurements in terms of degrees and radians. Okay, well, one of the big ideas in conversion I've talked about in class is that anytime you convert something and you do it through multiplication by some converting factor, the converting factor is always equal to 1. Okay? This is really important because when we multiply by 1, you don't really change anything. If you think about what conversion is, you're not really changing anything other than the unit. It's the same amount of stuff. Okay? So, if we in fact know that 180 degrees is equal to pi radians, I could actually create a fraction such as this, 180 degrees over pi radians. And you'd have to say, well, it's the same number on top as bottom, so this is equal to 1. Similarly, if I had pi radians over 180 degrees, that's also equal to 1. Okay? So these are very useful when doing conversion. Now, here's the deal. I'll do some pretty simple examples so you can almost anticipate the answers and show you how they work. So 45 degrees is equal to how many radians? Okay? So I'll rewrite this as 45 degrees, DEG. I'll put it over 1, so it looks like I'm dealing with a fraction. It'll help me in a second. Okay? And now, if I want to be able to convert and get rid of degrees, I'm going to multiply by one of my factors here. And if you notice here, if I multiply by this one, it's not going to help. Because if you look on an angle here, I've got degrees on top and radians on bottom. Well, that's not very helpful. Okay? Because if I use this one, you'll see, oh, I have degrees on top and on bottom. This is very helpful because if you notice, just by your rules of multiplication of fractions, you can cancel that unit. Okay? So, let me kind of show you how this will go from just a writing standpoint and what you should think when you go to do this. Well, if you want to get rid of degrees because you're in degrees, put it on an angle. The other unit is radians. Notice I put in the units first. And then I just fill in the appropriate numbers. There's 180 degrees for pi radians. The number in the black box is in fact equal to 1, which is great because then when I multiply by it, I'm not really changing anything. And then I just apply my rules of multiplying fractions. I notice that the degrees will cancel because a degree divided by a degree is equal to 1. And now I've got 45 pi over 180 rads. And 45 over 180 is 1/4 pi rads, also known as pi quarter rads. Now, this should make sense to you because if 180 is equal to pi, then 90 degrees is equal to pi halves, and then half of 90 would be 45, and half of pi halves is pi quarters. So, that should make perfect sense in terms of the answer feeling right. 45 degrees would be about there. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. but we'll go from radians to degrees. Okay, and we'll take another look here and say that we're going to convert 2 pi thirds radians is equal to how many degrees? Okay, well, again, I'm going to need to either multiply by 180 degrees over pi, or 180 degrees over pi radians, or pi radians over 180 degrees. Okay, well, when I start to write, the general rule is to say, what is it I want to get rid of? And if you notice, that's going to be radians here. So when you create your fraction that you're multiplying by, you want to set it up so that radians is on bottom to cancel out. Degrees will be on top because that's what I'm going to get. Then fill in your numbers. The words first is a big help. 180 degrees over pi rads. Now you notice here, when you go to cancel, you can cancel the radians with the radians and the pi with the pi. And now you're just really going to get 2/3 of 180 degrees. I could have continued to use some cancellation methods there. Just kind of want to let the problem flow this way so that maybe you don't feel like you're crossing everything out. Then 2/3 of 80 is going to be 120 degrees. Okay? So, that is pretty much it in a nutshell. Again, you are multiplying by 180 degrees over pi rads, or pi rads over 180 degrees. Now, the one thing that you can be a little thrown off by, and I'll try and close with this, is 180 over pi. 180 over 3.14, you could sit there and say, well, that's not really 1. But 180 degrees over pi rads is, because with the units, they're the same. Okay? Just as a quick aside, 365 divided by 1 is not 1. But once I say 365 days divided by 1 year, that is 1, because, just in short, if you want to reflect on this, the number in the circle is not the same as the number in the circle. The amount in the box on top is the amount in the box on bottom. So anything over itself is 1. So red over red is not really 1 in that little example I just did, but blue over blue is. So all conversion from radians to degrees comes down to multiplying by either 180 degrees over pi rads, or by multiplying by pi rads over 180 degrees. Which one do you multiply by? Well, whichever unit you're trying to get rid of needs to go on bottom. And whichever answer, whatever degree you want your unit to go to, needs to be on top. You're going to have to kind of commit that to memory in some way. Again, one of the things I do is when I'm building my conversion factor is I write the words in first, because it lets me eye up what word I'm trying to cancel, and then I fill in the numbers. Okay, hope that's a help. Bye.